I mean, a huge fireball there from that strike, and understandably the person who was filming that, you know, shocked at what he's just filmed. And then, as I say, the other images from Bahrain that we showed you of that Shahed drone striking the US Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, also deeply concerning, because there are many military personnel in and around these bases, not just US personnel, but British personnel based out of Bahrain as well, for the Royal Navy. That is, or has been, a significant base for them, their main base within the Middle East for many years, with still, you know, hundreds of personnel still regularly in and out of that facility.
Okay. Do we know if there's anyone injured in these attacks yet?
Too early, really, for that kind of information to come through. I mean, I have heard about Syria with 4 people killed after a missile strike on an apartment complex in a Syrian city. But, you know, in terms of a wider count of casualties, we don't have that as yet.
Mark, we'll come back to you very soon. That's Mark White there for you. Joining us now is another Mark. It's Shadow Minister for Defence, Mark Francois. Mark, thank you very much for joining us today. Mark, frankly, very worrying scenes. You've just heard Mark White there talking about that drone attack on a joint American-British base. Now, Mark, we haven't heard from the Prime Minister on this. It seems like we are going to get dragged into this whether we like it or not. Can I have your reaction, please?
Well, let me give you the reaction of my party leader, Kemi Badenoch, who has tweeted, I quote her, "I stand with our allies in the United States and Israel as they take on the Islamic Republic of Iran and its vile regime." There's no ambiguity there. We in the Conservative Party support this action. We cannot allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons. This regime has sponsored international terrorism for decades. They have given, for instance, the Russians Iranian Shahed drones, which they have been raining down on the people of Ukraine for several years. This is a regime that sponsors terrorism, that supports the Russian war effort, and this regime has to go.
Mark, why are we not hearing these words from our Prime Minister? There are the British serving personnel in these bases. We know that we cannot let Iran develop a nuclear weapon. That's in all our interests, even the Prime Minister's. And yet we've had this wishy-washy statement that neither backs nor condemns what's going on. We're talking to people from Iran who have families out in Iran at the moment they're worried about, based in this country. Why are we not hearing anything from the government?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we should be. If you remember, when President Trump rightfully attacked the Iranian nuclear facilities, their nuclear bomb-making facilities, a few months ago, we in the Conservative Party uncompromisingly supported the president's action, and Starmer and the government couldn't bring themselves to say one way or another, because at that time, the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, wouldn't let them. So I really hope that we're not in that situation again. The House of Commons will meet on Monday. The Prime Minister must come to the House of Commons on Monday and give a statement on behalf of His Majesty's government. And I hope by that stage he would have decided to back this action against a regime that has sponsored terrorism for decades. But we shouldn't have to wait till Monday. We should have the Prime Minister on television within the hour saying he backs this. This is not a circumstance in which you can sit on the fence. You're either for it or against it. And the British people need to know where their Prime Minister stands. They know where the Leader of the Opposition stands. I just read it out live on national TV. Where is the Prime Minister on this?
Mark, why are we not hearing from him? Is he frightened of upsetting, I don't know, other countries? Is he frightened of upsetting voters in this country? What is he so worried about?
Well, at the end of the day, I can't speak for him. He needs to speak for himself. He's the Prime Minister.
Yeah, quite.
He should be able to speak for himself. So the question is, American and Israeli forces are now in action. We have some initial reports, and I want to say initial reports because we need to have them confirmed, that RAF aircraft have been involved in shooting down incoming drones and rockets. So it looks as if the Royal Air Force may now be engaged, although, again, at the risk of hammering the nail, we need to get confirmation of that. So it is possible that British forces are now in action. So the Prime Minister must tell the country where he stands on this. You can't duck something like this and be the PM. You know, you're not the chairman of Hanforth Parish Council. He's the Prime Minister, for God's sake. So where does he stand?
Mark, you are echoing the sentiments of many of our viewers and listeners today, so thank you so much for joining us. That's Shadow Minister for Defence, Mark Francois there. OK, back to our other Mark now. Mark White has more breaking news for us. Mark.
Yeah, it's more in the way of worrying imagery coming out of the region. This time, Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. Look at that. That's right in the city centre there in Abu Dhabi. That's what's so concerning about this. Iran saying they are targeting US military installations. That is an explosion in the heart of Abu Dhabi. And you can understand then why people in the region are so very, very concerned about what is unfolding here. Iran clearly determined to escalate this into what is a regional conflict, sucking all of its neighbours into the conflict. Because what they're trying to do, make no mistake about it, is to have the leadership in the United Arab Emirates and in Qatar and in Kuwait all onto the United States to say, stop this action now. That's why we're seeing such significant strikes taking place on countries within this immediate neighbourhood around Iran. They all want to pile on the pressure diplomatically to Donald Trump to try to stop what is happening, what he has unleashed and what he is determined, he says, to go through with, which he says will be very sustained military operations over not hours, but over days. OK,
Abu Dhabi, then, just for, if you are listening on the radio, by the way, imagine, I don't know, the centre of any big city, New York, London, I mean, you know, the docks in Liverpool, that kind of thing. You're looking at a city that looks like it's been bombed. Now, this is deliberately targeting that. It's not a military base. I mean, it is a port, obviously we can see that. But it just looks like an ordinary city. There's tower blocks, there's residences, there's offices. This is not a military target, is it?